Hello, everyone. This is Peggy Pennock, and I'm here today to talk to you about my analysis of Robot-Proof: Higher Education in the Age of Artificial Intelligence by Joseph Aoun, a professor at Northeastern University in Boston. According to Aoun, the university of the future will be very different than the one that we know today. Will it be a school without walls? Because time and space no longer define education anymore. Learning can now occur beyond the confines of a building. In fact, Aoun claims that learners can teach themselves independently, or they can work collaboratively in groups, and others will work in conjunction with robots or AI. What does Dr. Aoun believe is problematic in the current state of higher education? He says it's about fear of technology. Lagging behind technology occurs because people are afraid that they will be replaced by machines. Another problem he mentions is the hesitance to revamp outdated models of learning that give students ownership of their futures. Thirdly, many higher level institutions have a narrow lens, so they must broaden their scope about whom they serve and when, because education is for everyone in every stage of their lives. Thus, because machines are poised to replace thinkers, we will need more than simply greater amounts of education to keep pace. What does Aoun propose needs to be done in the future? He says that institutions need to help students develop the mental capacity to create new knowledge. This new knowledge comes from the teaching of humanics. What are humanics? Humanics is a discipline that teaches mastery of content as well as development of particular skills. It requires people to learn new literacies: technological literacy, data literacy, and human literacy. Why is this important? Because once we learn these literacies and master them, we will be in charge of technology instead of technology being in charge of our lives. What does technological literacy involve? The knowledge of mathematics, coding, and basic engineering. This is important so we can understand the elemental principles behind our devices. Why is this important? Because it empowers us to deploy software and hardware to their fullest utility. Data literacy, on the other hand, enables us to find meaning in the overwhelming barrage of information that come our way. Data literacy gives us the tools to read the digital record and to understand when we ought to look elsewhere. Why is data literacy so important? Because our 21st century world is data-driven. It's full of Nielsen ratings, polls and surveys, percentiles on standardized tests, and companies use data to make decisions about increasing profits, discontinuing products, and creating new ones. But human literacy is the most important of all. It is through human literacy that we make connections with others, and we can create things that robots never can. Working together in teams, we can collaborate, solve problems, imagine, and create. Human literacy is the most powerful of all networks because through personal relationships, we have the power to communicate, to engage with others, and tap into our human capacity to understand the world in which we live. But more than that, personal relationships will help us to make right ethical choices, to distinguish between good and evil, and truth and deception, something that an AI or a robot can never do. but also human literacy allows us to have understanding of the importance of diversity. By immersing students in diversity, we will enrich their minds to broaden their thinking. As lifelong learners, human literacy will equip students to engage with diversity of perspectives. Therefore, we may glean factual information on human behavior through data literacy, showing us the what and the how. But humanities or humanics teach us the why, and to look not for what the eye can see, but for what is missing. So I agree with Ayun's suggestions in part. In fact, I've done some research and I found that other people out there who are knowledgeable about the world of the 21st century, and this is what they share, and they support my thoughts. According to Verrill, education is a tool helping us to think like rocket scientists so that we can make giant leaps in our lives and in the world. Education is the gateway for learning, open-minded inquiry that can result in unexpected major insights. Just like Ayun says, it is a lifelong adventure that keeps us engaged with ourselves, our communities, and the world. Another expert says, his name is Guillen, that since no one can predict the future, not even a robot, then it is up to universities to equip us for a range of possibilities to be prepared for the future. Like Noah, we can build our own arks. Therefore, universities need to be transformed so there's less standardization and more focus on the individual. After all, the education of yesteryear will not satisfy our needs for tomorrow's world. Another expert on 21st century thinking is John Hattie, and he claims, and he also agrees with Ayun, and so do I. He tells us that higher education instructors need to put themselves in the shoes of the learner. And higher level institutions must do the same as Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs says that innovators must ask questions to understand how things really are today, why they are that way, and how they might be changed or disrupted. Why? Because this world is changing at rapid speeds, and educators must change with it. If not, our system will cease to exist. However, Ayun overlooks a couple of things. One thing he overlooks is, if universities are to be transformed, how will they assess learning? And how will we close the digital divide for marginalized people? For example, if we're going to plan for the future in higher level institutions so that curriculum is for lifelong learning and continuous, what are the learning outcomes that we're looking for? How will we implement curriculum? How will we learn to assess curriculum? And what will we learn from the assessment? What are the results of the assessment? And how will we use those results to continue with more lifelong learning and planning for the future of education? In terms of the digital divide, how will we connect marginalized peoples who have demographics that have no connection to internet or any other technological devices? What can we do to open the world to them so they have access and connectivity? Ayun does not address other issues. For example, even though he claims that universities need to address the needs of the learner and the learner should drive what they want to know, some learners are not clear about what they want to learn and what they want to know. Other learners are resistant to learning. They are against a free exchange of ideas, and they challenge their professors who try to expose them to different perspectives. Then we have other learners who rather heckle their way, endure their way through universities. Unfortunately, many universities are catering to student complaints about faculty who try to expose them to different perspectives. So how do we resolve this? I say that we maintain a balance between the learner's needs and proper instruction for the humanics. As I read the book, a couple of things surprised me. One was the increased demand for more instruction and more teachers. This puzzled me because many instructors nowadays at universities have a tremendous workload, which is so overwhelming, and others are afraid of losing their jobs because of the challenges that students pose. The other thing that surprised me was that learners will drive the change. In some ways, this is good if the learner knows what he wants to learn. But what about the learner who doesn't know what he doesn't know? The third thing that surprised me was alumni loyalties will change. No longer will people claim that they belong to the Maize and Blue at University of Michigan or the Buckeyes at Ohio State. Their loyalties will depend largely on the institution that promotes and exposes them to more lifelong learning opportunities. Because the world is evolving so rapidly in the use of data, technology, and AI, many companies don't want to wait for universities to come on board. So they're opting to train workers themselves. What needs to change in higher education? The way we dispense with degrees and credentials. Universities need to listen to and meet the needs of lifelong learners. Instead of fitting them into old categories of courses, we need to put our courses into smaller modular blocks so that they can be assembled according to learners' targeted objectives. But most importantly, we need to reduce the cost of education through partnerships with corporate entities and businesses. For example, Amazon is already planning to train 29 million people globally in cloud computing for free. A college degree in the same area cannot compete with Amazon because of the time and cost it would take to develop the curriculum and train staff to teach it. Instead, universities could offer the same students degrees in cloud computing if they establish partnerships with Amazon in this endeavor and use their classrooms as learning hubs. I'm going to point out to you what robots are already doing today, so we should be aware of that. Students already can use virtual reality goggles for science experiments and go on virtual field trips to study geography and history. Students in one classroom on one side of the world can connect with students in a classroom on the other side of the world virtually. Already, virtual reality technology is being used to reduce psychological disorders and overcoming barriers in social interaction. VR voice apps are used by students with autism, and dyslexic students now use apps to read to them as they follow along. So what is the role of the instructor? It's to function as a mentor, facilitator, and a monitor for student learning, not to be replaced by the robot. So what must we do? We must be proactive and use robots and AI to our own advantage. Because to thrive as human beings, we need to be engaged in lifelong learning and take advantage of opportunities to empower our ability to adapt to a world of change. Universities like Northeastern University and Boston are doing just this. Some are, but AUN invites other universities to do the same. So if I were to go on an interview for a faculty position at a university, how would I bring up the book Robot Proof to the people who interview me? I would ask these questions. I would say, how many interdisciplinary courses does your institution offer? How many lifelong opportunities are available to your working students? Do you have any plans for growing the borders of the university beyond this campus? What sorts of partnerships has a university established with other universities and corporate entities locally, globally, all over the world? Are there any study abroad opportunities or exchange programs available to students for internships and apprenticeships? And finally, how are you engaging with alumni so that they can learn from you and you can learn from them for the development of future lifelong learning programs? These are my references for today's presentation. And before I sign off, I have to, oh my God, everybody, I have to go now. I have to sign off right now because Alexa just alerted me that a drone just delivered a package at my front door. 10-4, over and out. Goodbye.